Right, Harry.
Steve?
British Functional Fitness Federation, BF3.
Yes.
Done that justice?
Yeah, I think so.
So we'll come on to why we're here, particularly. But for those that are watching that don't know much about BF3, can you give us a very brief history on what it was and then now what it's going to become?
Yeah, sure. So I think the place to start is with what's the motivation. And the motivation is to provide the governance and the organization that enables the community, doesn't matter whether they're athletes or they're people who like to train in a particular methodology, business owners like yourself, Steve, to create the opportunities for them to shape the sport. I passionately believe it's really important that sport should be in the ownership of the people who practice it. And that's what motivated me back in 2016 to set up what we called at the time the Fitness Racing Federation UK. We now use the trading name British Functional Fitness Federation.
You did coin fitness racing, I believe, did you not?
I did. It was a discussion with a bunch of people at the time to try and capture what the sport was in its essence. And it's not easy, right? It was just a name. But we thought that was a good place to start. Not least because where I was working at the time, there was a competition called European Inferno. And we needed to rebrand it, and we ended up, calling it the Inferno Pairs Series. But we really toyed with calling it Inferno Racing, and that's where it all came from.
That was the first comp I ever did, Inferno
Was it really?
Pairs, one up in Sheffield at the AIS.
No way.
So yeah, the first ever one I did.
I actually went because obviously we're here at the British Functional Fitness National Trials, which is being held in is it Ecclesfield or Rotherham?
Ecclesfield, but I think it's Sheffield.
Okay. Yeah. And actually, I went and drove and had a look at the venue this morning because we started a bit later today. And I will never forget that event because one of the forklift truck drivers managed to get his fork stuck into an extremely expensive running track and lifted up this massive section of it. And thank God we were insured. Because otherwise, I think the whole story probably would have ended. Probably would end back then. That's really cool. That's really cool. That was an interesting comp. That.
So moving forward, then, so obviously it was a pretty big thing. Where Britain itself had some great athletes that went all over the world competing in it, and then I think with most things like COVID hit, and it kind of that ended all in-person competitions for a period. So now we're sort of rejuvenated, revitalized, and we're going again. So what is the sort of plan from this point forward?
So I think the most important thing to do is to focus on why we created in the first place. And that's to seek recognition from the sports councils of England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales that competitive functional fitness is a sport. And once we have that recognition, then a lot of things flow from that. Not least, athletes will have a sport which is their own, but also we can access public funding. Not the funding that they use for the Olympic Games, which is called the podium funds, which comes from the lottery. And that's allocated to Olympic sports, and specifically those sports that will have a good chance of getting athletes onto the podium. But other types of grant funding and sports that are recognized, there is a process by which they can apply for grants to get people active training and participating in sport and all of the other things. And if we can achieve recognition, which comes in two stages, I'll talk about that in a moment, but if we can get recognition, then we give ourselves a real chance of achieving everything else that we want to do around the sport. And the first stage is to get a pre-application, and we are going to go for pre-application in Q1 of next year. And then 1 year later, we can then go for our full application. That takes around 3 months for it to be considered. But if we get recognition from one of the sports councils, then the rest will follow. The critical thing that people can do to help us get through that first stage of the pre-application is to become a member. And if you're a box owner or a head coach, we have an affiliate scheme. It doesn't cost anything, but it's a way for you to say, as an owner of one of our training facilities in this country, or as a coach of our athletes, is essentially to say, we support the purposes of the British Functional Fitness Federation. We recognise the British Functional Fitness Federation as the governing body for the sport in the UK, and we participate to that end. And that will help us to build one, the proof that the community is behind the effort to get the sport recognized, but also it enables us to start to get the numbers of specific members that we need to jump over the hurdles. So that's really what we're focusing on for the next 6 months, that pre-application.
So that pre-application phase, you touched on the fact that people can just sign up to support. So I'm guessing that'll be available pretty much immediately.
It's available now on the website. So if you go to britishfunctionalfitness.sport /membership, and then there are two options there. There's the individual membership, which is £20, and then there is the affiliate scheme, which costs nothing. And for your membership, the key thing about that is that if you are a member of the federation, you get a vote on the future of the sport. So I think we're going to have an annual general meeting on the 16th of November. So anyone who joins before that time will be consulted about the big issues that are facing us and what we should do about them. And we will be kicking off the creation of a whole sport plan, which is a 5-year plan that we cost, that says these are the things that we want to do with the sport, this is what we want to do to bring people into the sport, to bring people into this training methodology that we have, functional fitness, to get people who are training in that methodology to then start to compete against other athletes. And also, it doesn't matter what the format is. You have the training, you go to the sport, that brings you into our orbit. And that is really, really important. When we say that we're creating the structures and the framework, if you join us, and I think you are a member, your vote's the same as mine. And you can actually shape that. So if there are things about the sport you don't like and you want to fix them, realistically, I think governance is the only way that we're going to do it. And critically, it's not being owned by anyone.
That's one thing that I was going to say then, because obviously the similarities between functional fitness and CrossFit are quite prominent. Obviously, it's the elephant in the room there with that, I guess. And that should be music to the ears of everybody that is part or tries to make a career out of CrossFit, because that is very opposite. That is obviously a business and it's owned by private equity, so they have to do what they have to do, and there's not much onus put on the athletes, as we've seen recently with the PFAA emerging and people like that. They want to kind of do these things that you're putting in place from the ground up already. So yeah, I'm guessing people are going to enjoy hearing that.
Well, I think there's a couple of things I would say about that. So the first thing is you've got to recognise just how substantially Greg changed the field in this area. I mean, I'm an old man now. I'm 52, but I came across CrossFit as a training methodology back in the mid 2000s, and I was a Royal Marine, and we were doing a lot of stuff overseas, and I didn't want to have to think about what I wanted to do that day. I wanted to just basically, I could go on website, there's the WOD, and then we'd go outside and there'd be various makeshift, barbells and kettlebells and all sorts of things and rigs, and we'd just crack on. And that's what we did in Iraq or Afghanistan, and that was very normal. And I think that general the general physical preparedness training methodology is bang on. It's right for most people. Doesn't matter what age you are. But where I think I diverge from that is I don't think commercial brands should own a sport. And actually, as far as the IOC or Sport Accord or Sport England or UK Sport, you can't have a sport that's owned by a commercial brand. That's why High Rocks will never be a sport that's recognized. High Rocks is just a version of functional fitness. So, and it's good, right? I wish them the best of luck, but it can never be any more than a particular format of a broader sport that is in the ownership of the community, and that's the right way it should be. So let's recognize just how much CrossFit has done to bring this training methodology, and also from the athlete perspective, to create really, really good competitions. And the most important competition, the games. Where I start to get a bit disappointed, I think, is how changes to those formats, they just happen. There's no consultation, right? And I remember when they got rid of the regionals, and there were really good British athletes who had just built their entire training program for the previous year to go, and then it was just snatched away from them at the last minute. I'm hearing rumors now that there may not be a live semi-finals next year. And as somebody who used to run events like Strength in Depth and the Inferno Pair series, etc., I can't help but think that that's a financial decision.
Well, yeah, because they said this year they were cutting a lot of funding towards the actual games, and if they're going to continue in that vein where private equity want their money back, they've got to make those cuts. And putting on all those semis, especially with all the empty seats we saw on the west coast of America, especially, it's just not viable, is it?
Yeah, and look, again, I don't want, you know, the CrossFit Games to wither on the vine. I think that would be just such a shame. It is the best competition,
absolutely,
but we should be bringing these sorts of things back into the ownership of the community, where the community can shape that. So, for example, if you're an athlete and you want to shape what's happening in the event scene here in the UK, join the federation and get on to the athlete committee. And the athlete committee is where policy plans and these sorts of things around issues that affect athletes are decided. And then that goes into a whole sport plan, and that's a chapter, right? It's good to go. And then we seek the funding and we go ahead and we try and make it work for the athletes.
So when we talk about the athletes then, so obviously some will be interested in what that means from a sort of competitive point of view. So can you talk us through the process of what we've done to this weekend, but then how that's going to look moving forward, and the opportunities that are going to present themselves with the European Championships of Worlds and things like that, just so that the athletes specifically know the sort of path of which they can follow to becoming a representative of the country, which is what everyone dreams of being.
You're very good at this, by the way,
Thank
Steve.
you.
Given that we've
wing and a prayer,
given that we've not talked about it beforehand and talked about, Harry, can you come and speak to me afterwards? And very good. I mean, look, that's an excellent question, and I think we have to take one step back. So, if the primary purpose of the British Functional Fitness Federation is to get recognition by the sports councils of the home nations to achieve all of those things, then there is an international federation as well. So, the predecessor for the British Functional Fitness Federation, the Fitness Racing Federation UK, was formed, I think, on the 30th of November 2016. We were the very first national governing body worldwide. The International Federation set up, I think, in July of 2017, the following year. And that was set up, I think James Fitzgerald of OPEX fame was involved in that. But we have to give credit to Gretchen Kettelberger, who's been the real driving force and is still the president. She is a former Games athlete herself. And she's provided excellent leadership since 2017. The IF3 was set up to get this sport into the Olympics. Okay, you get this sport in the Olympics, and I see no reason why it couldn't get onto the sport program. Our demographics are right. The sport presentation looks good and is where it needs to go. What the hell is golf doing in the Olympics, for crying out loud? But also the IOC knows that deep down, all right, because it's not appealing to young people, and it's not appealing to a diverse enough. And I don't say that with any cynicism. It's not appealing to a diverse enough group of people, and our sport does, and it does that in spades. So I think we've got a really good argument to get the sport and into the Olympic sport program, and that's what the IF3 is trying to do. So with that objective in mind, they need to run international and continental level competitions like the World Championships and the European Championships. And to help them get the sport into that, we support their competitions. So from our point today, we want to put a good, strong, representative, competitive team from those athletes who either came up through the British Functional Fitness Championships this year or have an affiliation to, not affiliation, but have a connection with us and who we issued wildcards to get that team to the Super Worlds. And it's the Super Worlds because it's all age divisions, open, youth, under 12, all the way through to 65 plus a team competition, male, female. Now, what we're trying to do with all of that is have a selection process whereby we are able to bring people to a national trials like we've done over the last 2 days. And we're not just looking at how people perform on the field of play. We're also looking at other qualities and things that they do. And that's what we've tried to do over the last...
Hopefully the Canary's over that Hoover.
Yeah, well, there's always a lot of chalk to get up off the deck at the end of a comp. But look, and that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we're trying to support. So from the athlete perspective, we want to take a lot of the guesswork away. We want to provide them with another outlet to compete against athletes of their caliber from other nations, and critically to represent their country. And I think that is a very significant thing, because when you walk out as a member of a team, a group of individual athletes, but are going to an international competition as a team, that's a very different feeling from going there as an individual. And we sent teams away in 2017, 2018, 2019, and in 2023. So this will be the 5th year that we've sent teams away to a World Champions. We also sent a team away to Australia in 2019 for the Masters. I love this sort of thing, and it's great. And you saw how much it meant to the athletes here today. And, you know, I'm hoping that over time, we will be seen by the best athletes in all age divisions as the method by which they can get really, really high standard competitions.
I think that's it's exciting, and like 3 of the Defiant athletes have actually done really well this weekend, and Tom, Georgia, and Matt. So hopefully they'll be going, because there's the next competition is in Budapest in middle of December, isn't it?
13th, 14th, and 15th of December, and Budapest, Hungary. Yeah.
And we're going to be sending a team there based on the qualification process from this weekend, and then any wild cards that we deem fit. Yep. They'll all be proudly embossed in Defiant.
They will. Thanks to you sponsoring the team. I think for the next 4 years we've got a great relationship, and you'll be delivering Team UK as our lead sponsor. Yeah. It's important that athletes have good merchandise, they're wearing good equipment, good technical equipment. I know this year we're going to start with our ambitions low, but we'll grow over time, and we'll have really good technical clothing for the athletes. I think it's great. And also, I reckon that team, having chatted with Jack and Mark, I reckon we'll be taking around 30 away, which is a nice, strong team. And that'll be a really, really good comp.
And I think that can only breed interest and further success, because, you know, I think a lot of athletes that maybe didn't know much about it probably passed off the opportunity this weekend, but they're going to see them 30 athletes all proudly representing their country in just a few months' time. And I think next year, I think these trials are going to be pretty crazy.
I think they will. Steve, absolutely. But we've got good athletes. Yeah. You know, there are CrossFit Games champions who are here this weekend, and you're right. There are athletes who are extremely good who weren't here this weekend, but I think they'll see what we're doing. And when they, to put it this way, 99% of people who I talk to about what we're trying to achieve, they get it straight away, and they're like, okay, what can I do? Yeah. And some people can do a lot, and some people can do a little. But when you aggregate all of that, we're an extremely powerful method of organizing the community's intent and will. And I think that the same is true of athletes when they see what we're doing and why, because it doesn't benefit me. Yeah. You know, I'm not in this to do anything other than create this with the people who are working with me, to create this opportunity for the parts of the community to grab this and run with it, right? And I think the athletes will do that as well. And next year and the year after, I'd love to go to the World Championships. And like we did in 2018 when Sam Briggs was first, Emma McQuaid was third, we had Mitch Adams first, and we had David Sharonka third. You know, we swept that. We also won the top team, top country at the 2018 World Championships. I'd love to get back to that stage as quickly as we can.
It's exciting. So I guess in closing, if you wanted to just give one more message, one more push to the people watching, whether they be affiliate owners, athletes, or anyone in between, what do we want to say?
Does it need to be age appropriate, or can I really say what I think?
Say what you want. This is the Defiant Show. You can say what you want on our show.
Well, the bottom line is that, you know, if there are things about our sport that are really gripping your shit, then stop complaining about it and get involved in what we're about, because that is the only method. Sport governance and organization is the only method where you will own the sport and you are having a say in how it is run.
Love that. Thanks very much, Harry. Your passion is palpable, so I'm hoping it comes across, because that's the reason when me and Tori chatted with you, we were straight in, because we share your passion and we're excited for where it can go.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm really looking forward to working with you over the next 4 years, mate.
And then we're finishing with a fist bump as well, so let's do that.
Awesome.
Nice one. Cheers, mate.
Thanks very much, Steve.